How's it going, everybody? Hope you're doing well. I wanted to ask you a question. Have you ever heard of G2A? Well, I wanted to introduce you to the Gate 2 Adventure, which is your ultimate destination for all things digital entertainment. It's like an amazing adventure terminal filled with deals on software, mind-blowing games, and gift cards. And it has all your favorite platforms, whether it's Amazon, Netflix, Tinder, and a lot more. And the best part about all of this is everything here comes with epic discounts and instant delivery. I know how many of you guys are like big gamers, and I hear it all the time on the channel. And I think you're going to lose your minds here when you hear what G2A is doing. They're throwing a massive birthday bash, and they have big discounts, limited time deals, and a gaming lineup that is going to really leave you in awe. You guys know me. When it comes to games, I got to find one that I'm really getting locked into. And when I was going through the list, I was like, oh, that Spider-Man game. I remember everybody talking about that Spider-Man game. Everybody was talking about that game, man, saying how amazing it was, and then I had to play it. And I did play it for a while. Now they have this remastered one, and I'm very excited to check it out. I know you guys are ready for this. It's going to be big. It's going to be epic. I know you're ready for it. So dive into that birthday bash and level up your gaming collection now. G2A's got your back. This is a big deal. This is like a really big deal. When you go and you hit that link, you're going to go and you're going to grab your favorite games at really unbelievable prices. I couldn't believe it. When I was looking at it, I was like, wait, is that wrong? No, it's right. Go over there and check it out, because when it comes to digital entertainment, G2A is the place to be. Do it. Stay awesome. I'm telling you, keep telling me about the games, because that's where I learned it. I learned it from you guys as well. So tell me which ones you're like, wow, I couldn't believe I found this over there for that price. So thanks to G2A and thanks to you guys. Now let's go watch this video I made. How's it going, everybody? Happy Friday. We're here. It's Loki, episode 2, season 2. And my goodness, this show is doing very well thus far. I'm so curious. We already know from last week. And don't worry, Winston and I are going to just keep it till episode 2. Everybody was so upset that we were hinting at 3 and 4, and I get it. But we're going to do episode 2 here. I'm so curious to see if Coy was on the same page, because Winston and I didn't love it. But I guess I can't say if I really enjoyed 3 and 4, because it did. But we got other stuff going on. Loki. That's right. Loki. What's it going to mean? How's it going to play into the MCU? How's it going to get? Is it going to get better? Was it great? All that. Sticking with the L's. Lobo. Jason Momoa. Yeah, you heard of him. Well, it looks like none of the DCEU characters are coming back. That seems to... We'll get to that variety thing in a second. But that seems to be the case. No, none of the big players, minus the ones that we talked about, none of the major players are coming back. But the news is that Jason Momoa is already testing for Lobo, is already going in. You got an offer, rather, for Lobo. That's crazy talk. Is it or not? Speaking of which, Jason Momoa was accused of being drunk on the set. By who? Amber Heard. So take that for what it's worth. And Amber Heard, by the way, also was almost fired. And then the owner of X called up and said, don't fire my then girlfriend. And everything was okay for her. It seems like. So we'll talk about all that and more on this show today. Capes and Cowls. All right. You haven't been here before? Well, then hit that button, man. 100,000. We're almost there. We're getting there. But we need you guys to hit that button, get us there even faster. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere podcasts are found. It's Capes and Cowls, baby. Let's do it. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Big thing. Capes and Cowls. It's myself, Coy Jandreau, Winston A. Marshall.
So clean.
We have all this to talk about, guys. A lot going on. And there's a couple updates, too, from last week. Like we had talked about, that's right, Winston setting himself up. Winston and I have things to discuss. Last week, if you guys watched, Winston and I talked, and I presented to him and said to him, hey, Winston, I have an idea. How would you feel about doing the Universal Horror Nights? And he said, lovingly, hell no. To which I said, what if we did it on Patreon for a certain amount of patrons? And he said, well, you'd have to pay me.
Again,
which I said,
reasonable.
fair. I came up with a price, to which he said, no.
That price, I was about to be like, you thought you saw a WGA strike and a SAG strike. They're about to be a Winston strike outside Kristian's house.
And it wasn't that bad.
I was like, yo, I got the picket signs. I don't learn to walk
your
again.
likeness.
Right, but then Winston then countered, to which I said, fair. To then Winston said, shit.
Negotiations, trauma.
So we did that in that conversation, and to counter again, just very very quick, there was a comment I mentioned the other day, to where a guy had mentioned, and he had been in a position in his work, and I felt very bad for him. I felt really bad for him. My heart kind of broke for him. He said he was bullied in his workplace. To me, bullying is when if I would again say to Winston, okay, look, we're going for these 1,000 patrons, and if you don't do this, you're not on this channel anymore. You're not my friend. I'm paying you what I pay you here, and you should do it. And if you don't, if you didn't slap me in the face on something like that, then
I would have done that. It would have been a situation where
you'd say this guy isn't my friend.
You just would come out here and like your cameras are gone and your computer's gone. And,
to which I would say,
and then all of a sudden, like you're like, man. So you got so mad you went into a full blown stereotype, and I was like. Yeah.
You're right. Well, listen. To which I then would say, understood. Because, and I think people don't understand how you and I have become very close over the last, 3 years, too. So it's like, and there's a lot of other things, too. And I get it. I understand where the guy was coming from. But, and he also said, well, why don't you do something? I got something cooking myself, too. Now, it's not, you'll hear about it. I'm going to tell you in a
fascinated.
second. Yeah,
I am very fascinated.
And I don't know if it was in that email. I don't know if you read the whole email.
I maybe wasn't paying enough attention.
We blasted a whole email.
Yes, I did.
Did I get this email?
No, I don't know. But
I got it.
Out of the loop.
I got it because I wanted to read Capes and Cowls, the comic, and so PID sent me a membership. Just since I work here.
No, what he meant to say is he's a member on the Patreon.
A paid member of the Patreon.
So people don't know what the hell's going on. If you're just tuning into this for the first time, so Winston, when we hit 1,000 patrons, Winston will be going to Universal Horror Nights. Now, if we hit it this month, then we'll be getting Winston there this month. However, if we don't hit it this month, then Winston will go next year. Now, there's other things that we've already kind of added into it, too. Now, there's things of bringing back the rewatches. There's, at a certain level, we'll be able to do, basically, I don't remember how many it was. I think it was like 700, 800. It's all on the list. But we will bring back, basically, let's say it's a rewatch with you and I for one thing. And we watch it, and it's the cut down with the footage that will air on this channel, and then the raw footage, the full watch long will be on Patreon. All right, so one of the benefits for me, I think we'll start with the 1,500, which is the fun one. Brett came up with this the other day. At 1,500, Brett and I will go and sit front row at a Corey Feldman concert. And we will record the whole thing, and I will try to get backstage passes as much as
maybe
publicist.
Maybe I don't understand. It's like, because I know obviously he used to act. He's a musician now.
Have you never seen the Corey Feldman footage?
No.
Corey Feldman is a delight, but his music stylings is very specifically to Corey Feldman.
Yeah, you should watch the UAP episode we did the other day, and I put actually the footage.
Wicked nice guy, very well spoken, very
nice.
Kind.
It's an interesting concert.
Music is a different thing.
And look, I could come out being a major fan. Who knows? But nonetheless, we got that, and then the major goals. There's one at 5,000 where I will bleach blonde my hair like Ken and get a spray tan, like Ken from Barbie.
I respect that.
I don't know how long I'll keep it for because I don't know. How
I feel like if I'm gonna have to do Horror Nights, it needs to be at least a week.
Which is fair.
That's fair.
I think the only thing for me is it depends on when we hit it. Like if there's certain
like holidays,
if there's
holiday photos.
No, I don't mind the holiday photos. More is like if I get some kind of a gig or something, and it's like if someone's like,
well, it's the same thing. If we somehow hit this at the end of the month, but if I'm booked out the only days we can go, then we have to push it.
True.
But you know what I mean. So like that's just
it's
life.
a little right. But I think it's a matter of if I have I'm talking about how long
existing
I
as Ken.
No. I understand what you're saying. I'm just saying like you're right. If
anything can happen, but we will make it happen in general. But the 10,000 one is it's the golden ticket because we've changed it up a little bit. It was
maybe I didn't read it right.
It was going to be Brett Sheridan skydiving. Well, Brett Sheridan will no longer be skydiving.
Oh.
the Flirtenfloss will be.
Oh, yes.
In character, and I have a new tier that part of that came out yesterday. Jen Sturger is going to be in full character with Flaus as Jessica, as his girlfriend, to which she said, not me, I didn't ask, you can see it on video. She says this. She said her outfit would be probably akin to dental floss, is what she said.
Skydiving.
No, she's not going to
Oh, I
skydive.
was like,
skydive.
this
She's not going to
She's just going to support.
Okay.
She's just going to
gonna-
support her man.
Jessica is gonna
Jessica
go
will
with
support her
Flaus.
man.
Jessica
yes.
and
And
dental
again,
floss skydiving floss.
Go back to the video yesterday. Her words, not mine, nor did I ask. I did
Check
not
the
ask.
receipts. This
Check
is
the
clean.
receipt. She said, and she said that she's going to go full on character, and they're going to be in character the whole time. But again, that could be like a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now. Who knows if we get to 10,000? So
Man,
that's
I hope
all.
I'm alive.
You see it. So anyway, we got there's a lot going on the Patreon. So and we picked up like 15 since last week.
All right.
So I mean, for this taping, it was really Friday.
Yeah,
so
we're early.
Yeah, so it's slowly but surely.
Okay.
Slowly but surely. All right, let's get into this. Loki episode 2, man, it dropped, and we've all seen it. And I'm very curious. I'm going to have to start with Coy here, too, because the brief comments from Winston and I, if you watched last week, this episode scared me because I liked the first episode a lot and thought it was a great start. And then this episode, to me, started to signify everything that I've kind of had problems with Marvel in the most recent terms. The jokes were off. The sponsorship was obnoxious. There was so many different moments that I thought that the guy that was playing Brad, who I thought was good in the first episode, was like he's playing a different character, and his timing was off, and his goofiness, and I don't know. I didn't dig it. Coy?
So the acting didn't bother me as much as it bothered you guys, but the episode did. I didn't enjoy the second episode nearly as much. For me, it was some of the choices in the directing of the acting. Like there was a moment where Loki, spoilers for episode 2,
That's what this is.
Loki runs up at the camera really dramatically. And not only is it this long running shot, but when he lands, they shoot it really dramatically and he delivers a line that could have worked if it was shot regularly, but since it was shot so melodramatically, this is just one example in the opening, that it made everything feel very saccharine and cheesy. And I feel like the rest of the episode, the acting didn't line up with the directing. So I don't know if the acting bothered me as much as the style choices within the acting. Like one of the things needed to change. Either the melodramatic directing style should have shifted down and then the acting up. There was an imbalance. And then it didn't quite land humor-wise, I agree, and it did worry me because
goofy, right?
I think some of that was the filming. Some of the film, like the cinematography, was very like ba 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 ba, and it didn't fit the tone at all. So the goofy humor felt bigger, the acting felt bigger than anything else had, and I also found I wasn't as invested in the B plot as I needed to be.
Right.
So then I wasn't invested in the episode because you need the A and B plot to really.
For this one?
I consider the A plot like the interrogation and the hunting and all those things, but everything going on at the TVA felt very secondary. Like I didn't buy the stakes of anything going on with anyone except Brad and Loki in the
That's
room.
why I'm asking again. What was going? Because what I don't want to do is I don't want to start speaking on something and I'm speaking ahead.
Oh, sure. I believe the B plot was still OB trying to solve the problems of the confluence of time in the loom. That wasn't solved yet.
Okay.
So it's him basically, all that stuff felt secondary to this one hunt. And then the end of the episode, out of nowhere, is them going like, spoilers, oh my God, they were able to accomplish this thing. All these billions of people are dying. None of that felt important because you're searching for something for 7/8 the episode, and all of a sudden the inciting incident of the ticking clock is in the final eighth. You have no time to care, and then all of a sudden it's done. So then you're like, wait,
abrupt.
we were focused on the room interrogation, which I thought was playful and fun. Would have shot it different. But then by the time you get to any stakes, it's over, and the fight felt like lackluster because you're like, oh, and we're here. And so there should have been a ticking clock of buildup. Instead, they try to make it a mystery that didn't land.
But even that, like, I just didn't feel even that interrogation thing, which worked well enough, right? And they bring in that weapon or whatever too. But they're playing the good cop, bad cop. They're not fooling us. I don't know who they're trying to fool because they're like, oh, we knew from that conversation leading into it that Mobius and Loki were working together, and it was clearly a good cop, bad cop thing. But he doesn't seem to me like I don't know, as much of a badass in that scene they were trying to make him feel, because we just saw him kind of goofy running around. He wants to be an actor. He like takes off almost like it was like almost like a spoof when he ran away from them with the drink and everything too. And I said the humor in the first one was so good. We're in the elevator, and Mobius is like, yeah, I can't watch you do that anymore. It's just like, I lied. You know, he's going into the whole thing about how horrible it was. And it's terrible.
Actually pretty good. Oh,
It's not great. And he was, but that humor to me is like, that worked great. This stuff was like, this was goofy Marvel humor that I don't like.
It was like a 12 when the humor in the first was like this really dry, nice 8-9, like where it's just under the over the top, where it works because of Owen Wilson's delivery. I think his delivery is always exceptional. It was something about the framing, it was something about the plot and the pacing. It just didn't land. Nothing worked for me really here, except where we got to the emotional payoff. Emotionally not in the show though. Like
but you haven't even mentioned Sylvie. You haven't even mentioned her, and that's just like the impact. That impact,
not great.
It should have been so big, and there was, and the first reveal of it was in that post-credit scene, which I missed at first. When I did the reaction, is in the post-credit scene, which we talked about last week. But then it's just like they wanted, like McDonald's paid a lot of money, and they wanted to put her at a McDonald's, and then they just like continuously like bombarded you with it, and it.
I forgot that was.
You said it didn't bother you as much. It bothered me because it was like, I don't mind, obviously I don't mind sponsors. Sponsors pays the bills. I get it. We're going to talk about two of them in a little bit. And I understand, but I'm just saying that there's a way to do it. And to me, it just seemed like it was a gimmick. However, what I will say, and I know that we promised we won't go too much into what I like about 3, what I like about 4. I'm not going to do that. But I'm glad that I love this show. I'll just say that. Yeah. I love this show. And the reason why is because I have seen more. And the end of 2, I said to myself, "What is this show about? Like, where's the main? We haven't connected in the way that I thought we were going to. That's the way I felt when I watched the end of 2.
I also didn't like the use of time here because it undermined. It leapt to Brad is in the 80s or 70s as an actor, and we don't know how he got there. And that's supposed to be like, I wonder what he's been doing. But instead it made it, okay, I feel like I watched the end of an episode, stakes were high, now stakes are low, and then at the end, oh, stakes are high again. But none of it felt like an intentional roller coaster. It just felt disorienting, not in a plot-driven way, but in an editing poorly way.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
I guess I've been pretty quiet so far. So yeah, I had 0 problems with the acting. I had 0 problems with the McDonald's placement. It is what it is. It happens, and it wasn't beat you over the head that like Transformers can be at times. When you know what I mean.
You don't think it was in this one? See, I thought it was in this one.
It was what it was when you consider why I guess it didn't bother me. Like stylistically, I guess it kind of made sense that with the whole time hopping and how big McDonald's really was getting at that point in the 80s. It didn't. It was whatever. That didn't bother me.
What was so cool to be at an old McDonald's for me. Like
I
was like, oh, I remember that. Like I was nostalgic.
That too. That
maybe
and
I'm the only one.
That and if you throw in the fact that when she shows up at the end of 1, she's like, I want to try everything, and that evolved into I'm just gonna stay here. So it essentially is the same thing where like someone just randomly is like, I work at this diner now, it just happened to be McDonald's. I don't care.
That's fair.
My issue was, and it's what a lot of what Coy was alluding to, is the writing in this entire episode was just very wonky because it wasn't paced very well. It was kind of all over the place. There were amazing moments in there.
There were scenes that were great.
So Loki and Sylvie's conversation about like, no, we need to whatever. She's like, no, screw you. I have my free will. I'm done. Like, do your like whatever. And him being like, do you understand that billions will die? You originally were doing this because you wanted to free people, and you've actually sentenced them to death. Like, you need to help us out here. So like that was interesting. The pie conversation was interesting. But we were just so all over the place. Like I even enjoyed the fight. I thought the fight was like interesting as well. But you're right. The stakes of all of a sudden, they are committing genocide right now.
Well, and even
that's crazy.
Are we not going to mention at all? Sylvie did all this. It's all her fault. It's all her fault. She killed dude. She killed He Who Remains. Killed him. No one mentions it. No one's. And if they mention it, they're just like, oh yeah, remember when you did that thing? And she's like, you caused this.
Well, that's because they spent most of that time already arguing about this in episode 1. That was what the whole council and them talking to each other and being like, well, what do we do?
But I feel like
they let her off the hook.
But I feel like Sylvie being mad at Loki is a little misplaced, at least for the audience, without Loki at least countering like, we wouldn't be here without like because she's like blame, and at no point does and I get that he loves her and like he doesn't want to like, hi, it's great to see you, I'm blaming you. a line of dialogue.
Everyone should be blaming her.
A line.
Everyone. And it's okay if she's like, look, I did what I did. And I think that it's...
And that's how she's playing it.
100%.
I want the line.
But I want people to go, like, they should be pissed. You did this. That's not there.
I guess the logic behind that, because the people that were... Loki is too concerned about, oh my God, the loom is falling apart because Obi told him that.
Right.
And so we just need to figure out...
Nothing you can do about it type thing.
Right. So we just need to stop people from the loom exploding and all existence just ending, right? So that's the concern there. You had the rebels that ultimately decided they were just going to mass prune everything.
Mm-hmm.
Their response was, I don't give a damn about Sylvie. I'm going to go prune the whole rest of the universe and all that. So truthfully, the only thing that was then important, and I understand that, and I get that even a line of dialogue would have helped.
Yeah.
The only thing that's important at that point is, yo, billions is also bad. That's bad writing to me. If this is multiversal timelines and we have 7 billion people on this planet,
Yeah.
It's trillions.
it's trillions, if not more than that. You know what I mean? So that to me was, and that sounds very nitpicky,
But it's the detail.
but this show is so good about detail.
Yeah.
The fact that it took me out for half a second, I was like, billions? What are you talking about? This
Right.
is
Yeah.
you're talking about entire existences, not like an Earth or two. You're talking about infinite existences.
Some sort of crisis on infinite Earths?
like trillions upon trillions, billions upon
Quadrillions?
like something.
Cinctillions?
That's a very nitpicky thing, but it speaks to me how the writing in this episode was just kind of all over the place.
It went back to the thing where we were talking about, like the stuff of where the WandaVision and how they didn't watch WandaVision in Doctor Strange multiverse, and they just kind of throw, it's like, oh, I'm focusing on this, and it's like, you got to focus on all of it. You got to pay attention to all the detail, and I think that it really, like, it was 1 and 2 were so different.
They felt like different
they were
shows.
so different, and I am so glad that I can say that after watching, again, not spoiling anything, just say 1 through 4, I love this show. I do, and I think there's things inside of 2 that are important. But it's going to be, for me, at the end, I can tell you right now, like, you'd have to do a lot for this not to be the lower tier.
So I'll just say this, like, the one thing that'll happen, it just happened very sloppily, as I've mentioned, is that there is a lot of setup for what happens later in the series.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So you don't have to be worried.
Right. It just the way in which we decide to get there, it's kind of like, it's plenty of people that don't like that I talk sports in this thing. I am devastated after what just happened to the Cowboys. All right, look,
Well, the Giants lost too. So
yeah, exactly, right. But like, there's a situation of like, you can be excited about like, oh man, we scored, but if you were really sloppy in how you got there, you still have things to talk about. You're like,
Right.
bro, that was terrible for
a
these
win's
reasons.
a win, but we got to talk.
We gotta talk.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
if you show up with flowers for your girl, that's great. But if she noticed that you went and picked them from the neighbor's garden and then handed them to her, she'd be like, "Thank you for the flowers. I'm gonna kill you." Like,
Right,
you know what
Or
I
if
mean?
it's a
Like,
color she hates.
know
Like,
what
we're
I'm
like, I
saying?
misguided good.
So that's what this episode feels like. I feel like ultimately y'all will see the payoff. I think is great. I just how we get to that. I'm like, because of this episode, I'm like, God, you could have been flawless, and you have got one asterisk hanging out
All
over
right,
here.
I'm curious where it feels like that is important / sloppy by the end, because there could be things in even 5 and 6 that you guys haven't seen yet that
True.
like
True.
that make it pay off.
Yeah, I'll just say this: that for me, it's that any concerns I had after this, I don't have.
Great. So going forward, like, we'll be happy to talk next week.
So yeah, as far as where we are at the moment. But again, we skated around some stuff there too. Look at the Ahsoka finale, right? I was definitely, I think it was a kind of I was in the 40%, and then there was the 60% who really like loved it, right? So I don't know where we're gonna land on this. We could all be in that lower tier, and people I love this episode. This episode was great. So I love hearing the comments. I love seeing what you guys are talking about, and if you liked it, if you're on the same page, how you felt about it. Do you completely disagree?
The one thing I will say, and I do appreciate, and I think it gets forgotten a lot, especially because we've gone very much in the comedic route with the character of Loki in the MCU,
Yeah.
is how deadly Loki actually is as a character. And I think that's the one thing that fight reminded us of, is the
I
fact,
love that,
as well as the chase
Yeah.
with Brad Wolf, and the fact that like all of a sudden the shadows are able to grab him and stuff like that and hold him up. I think just a reminder of how powerful Loki is very important, because it just seems like, since Thor's always slapping him around, that
that's
he's
true.
not
He is
not
a
that
god.
capable. But he's still a god of
He was the
mischief.
villain of the first Avengers, man.
Yeah,
He was,
all
and he
of
was,
the Avengers.
He was the #1 villain for a long time before for me it was Killmonger who first kind of dethroned him, and then Thanos quickly dethroned Killmonger.
Yeah.
But it was, for a long time, he was the
Loki.
guy.
The speed,
Over Ultron, over
Yeah.
everybody. Yeah, agreed.
but the speed at which he was just
Able to do
dispatching
it.
these TVA agents, I thought was absolutely huge.
And I think that's just when you get something so powerful as the MCU, you have to show like, oh, this guy that was important is small, but then we need to be reminded, like you're saying, so that there's stakes for him.
And
Absolutely.
it was, and that, and again, I think because of the stuff that I didn't like, unfortunately, some of the stuff outweighed the good, because that moment you're mentioning was pretty sick.
It was pretty dope.
When he's fighting, it's showing, and even when he's interrogating him, and Brad's trying to like do that thing where he's using the stuff against him, and you think Loki's going to snap, and Loki, even though he doesn't snap, he doesn't do anything in general. That it's Mobius that snaps, which is interesting. Yeah.
Well, so this was the thing that I thought was so, I don't know if you guys caught this. That was essentially a mirrored moment of the first Avengers, because remember, the shoe was on the other foot. He was the one that was captured. He was in there talking to both Fury and then
Black
Widow.
Widow,
Yeah, he did the Black Widow thing.
And so the whole thing of that entire manipulation, and that was the thing. Where you would have expected him to then lose his cool, had a similar sort of situation, and the difference was, instead of fully getting them to talk themselves out of it, he was like, I'll go back to what I'm actually good at, and I'm still going to trick you, but it's like full torture.
Yeah.
And I think that also the mirroring is fun, even from season 1, because I said episode 1, I like that it's kind of Loki leading because he has met He Who Remains, whereas season 1 was Mobius kind of leading him through the TVA. It's who knows more in the situation.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that Mobius was the one that broke, and they had that hallway scene, and they even called out like, I was following you. You're literally in front of me. How could I? Like that little comedy worked for me.
Yeah, it did. It
But
definitely
that
worked.
was a play on like all these things we're talking about. That was the kind of humor that does work versus
Yes.
the bigger, sillier. So
Yeah.
there are moments that work, but
You're 100% right. Like, even when you mentioned that moment, like I enjoyed that moment as well too. There are a lot of moments in here that work in the show, and it's their chemistry. Their chemistry is unmatched.
Oh,
their
completely.
chemistry is unmatched. When they have the moments where the two of them can do stuff together, it works. It was just some of the stuff, and I guess maybe it's goes back to what you guys both you are saying, is that maybe the writing was just off on this one.
And the pace, for me, the pacing was the biggest
Yeah.
crime, because it was moments that felt like, okay, we're gonna pay this off. It's gonna be, and then it ended. And I was like, what? And it just felt like it underserved both the climax and the buildup.
Yeah, I mean, look, I guess overall, I do understand some of the stuff they were doing, especially the sponsorships. And let me tell you about, if you didn't know once about Green Chef, I'll tell you right now. Green Chef and Nutrafol, both of them, I'm going to let you know about them. Here we go. You guys know Green Chef. I've been talking about Green Chef forever. I love them. I've been so excited to continue to work with them because I've been eating really good, as I mentioned before, not only with other vitamins and stuff I'm taking, but I'm eating really well. And the reason why I'm eating so well is because Green Chef is the #1 meal kit for eating clean with dinners that work for you, and it's not the other way around. You can eat clean the easy way with recipes that help manage your weight and support your wellness goals without skimping on flavor. I talk about it all the time. I do my own. I make like quesadillas now, and I can throw stuff on the grill. They have really good meat, good burgers, and they have everything that you can actually. If you don't like burgers, you want to eat vegan more, they can do that too. You can enjoy effortless plant-based dining with Vegan Kickoff, which is a brand new limited time options, including delicious vegan breakfast, lunches, dinners, and sides. They have everything. They deliver everything you need to eat clean the easy way for the rest of the summer. You can feel your best with nutritionists approved recipes packed with clean ingredients that support your healthy lifestyle, and they taste great too. So if you want to check it out, please go and do it, because they're really amazing. You get ahead of the busy season with their convenient step-by-step recipes. They have dinners that are ready in like 25 minutes or less. I'm telling you, it was so easy for me, and I'm an imbecile when it comes to cooking. And it was so great. I mean, I love them. If you go to greenchef.com/60thing, greenchef.com/60thing, and use that code 60thing, you'll get 60% off plus free shipping. It is worth the shot. Go and give it a whirl, as the World Girls would say. It is so good. I love it, and you'll love it too. So make sure you check it out. That is Green Chef, everybody. Don't be embarrassed. Don't do it. Listen, did you know that 80% of men will experience hair thinning in their lifetime? It's normal, guys, but it doesn't have to be your fate. you can get ahead of thinning with Nutrafol. Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist recommended hair growth supplement clinically shown to improve your hair growth, visible thickness, and visible scalp coverage. Nutrafol's hair growth supplements use physician-formulated, natural, science-backed ingredients. Their drug-free, patented technology provides consistent, reliable results without compromising your sexual health. Go to Nutrafol.com/men to take their hair wealth wellness quiz. Identify causes of your thinning hair, and Nutrafol will give you a personalized plan for better hair health through whole body wellness. It works. In a clinical study, 84% of men showed improvement in their hair after 6 months taking Nutrafol men's hair growth supplements. Everybody feels this way as you're getting older. You're like, oh man, am I the only one? Why is this happening to me? This and that. We're in an age now where you can get it helped. You can get it fixed. Take the first step to visibly thicker, healthier hair. For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering our listeners $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you go to Nutrafol.com/men, but you have to enter that promo code BIGTHING. Find out why over 4,000 healthcare professionals recommend Nutrafol for healthier hair. Nutrafol.com/men. Nutrafol.com/men and enter that code BIGTHING. That's Nutrafol.com/men, promo code BIGTHING. I'm telling you, that Green Chef, though, guys, it is no joke. I made these burritos last week. Threw them on the grill, the chicken breast, sliced them up, used a lot of the stuff that they kind of sent. They sent this rice also, put a little rice in there, put some of the peppers in there, I was impressed with myself. I'm going to tell you. I was impressed with myself. I didn't know I could do that. So
and the opposite nutrition facts of a McDonald's in the 80s.
100%. 100% good. But so, once again, check out both Green Chef and Nutrafol, to which I super highly recommend. I've been recommending them all week. You guys know that. If you're able to and you want to support the channel and you want to get something that's really going to benefit you, consider both of them. Link is in the description, and I always pin our sponsors in our top comment. Okay, let's move on. Let's get to this Aquaman stuff because this stuff's crazy. Comic book movie, breaking it down, man. Aquaman drama. It seems Amber Heard was almost fired from the sequel until Elon Musk stepped in. Mark Cassidy. Shortly after Warner Brothers debuted the first trailer for Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, supposed documents from the Johnny Depp Amber Heard defamation trial surfaced on Reddit. Because the details couldn't be verified, we didn't pay much attention at the time, but Variety has now confirmed that the documents themselves, if not the accusations outlined in them, are indeed legit. It seems Depp fans paid the court fees for the release of the documents from Heard's therapist, and the actress claims that her Lost Kingdom co-star Jason Momoa attempted to get her fired and dressed like her ex while intoxicated on the sequel's set. She says, Jason said he wanted me fired. Jason was drunk, late on set, dressing like Johnny. He has all the rings too. Momoa's rep declined to respond, but a DC spokesperson did weigh in. Jason Momoa conducted himself in a professional manner at all times on the set of Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. Others echoed that sentiment. Jason works his ass off, likes to have a beer once in a while like everyone else, but does not show up drunk to set. And he isn't dressing like Johnny Depp. He's always dressed in that bohemian style. Heard also said she felt unsupported by director James Wan and treated like a pariah because of her high-profile legal battle with her ex-husband. Here's the thing, though. Heard was almost fired and likely would have been if not for her boyfriend at the time, Elon Musk. According to Variety sources, Wan and the studio had decided to drop Heard from the movie. There's no mention of her potentially being replaced as Mara due to her lack of chemistry with Momoa. This was supposedly unrelated to the Depp trial, and Momoa was not involved in the decision-making, but one source does note that Heard did a chemistry test with Momoa before securing the part, beating 2 other actresses who did similar chemistry tests, including Abby Lee. Ultimately, Heard was able to remain on as Mara because Musk had one of his litigators send a scorched earth letter to Warner Brothers threatening to burn the house down if she wasn't allowed to return. This would explain reports that Heard had her screen time significantly reduced, with 2 key scenes: an action sequence with Mara fighting Black Manta and a love scene with Momoa hitting the cut room floor. The movie's cast and director are not doing any promotion due to the strikes, but if they conclude over the next few weeks, as they are expected to, the Aquaman 2 junkets are going to be very interesting. Woohoo! Wow. Just look at silence.
billionaires writing letters to studios because of defamation. It's just so much. It's so much Jersey Shore. It's so like
just a lot of mosquitoes. That's how much I cared about the story.
Can I tell you something though, Winston?
Yeah.
I was doing. I don't know if it was. I think it was an ad or it was something. There was a mosquito in here, and I really wish I would have left it in because it was hilarious. I was talking about. It might have been an ad. Maybe a news story. I think it was a news story. I can't remember. But Winston's like this. Going after it was, he was so locked in on
This
it.
was a long time ago.
This was like last week, 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, whenever Coy was out.
2 weeks ago.
Yeah. I'm always listening. Like I hear what you're saying, but like for those that don't know, I got bit already on my ankle in the most uncomfortable spot.
The worst.
And so like
he just got
at first I thought it was one. And now I'm seeing what Kristian said.
Yeah.
They're everywhere. There's one chilling right there. You see it, Coy, on the edge of the little thing.
He's on Vader.
And I'm like, if that little asshole moves, he's dead. Because I'm not going to slap the camera because I'm not paying for a new camera.
It's just really, really annoying. I don't know what happened, how they started to come in.
Which is also funny because that's kind of what this story feels like to me. It's very annoying. Like I'm like, there's so many elements about it that I don't like. I don't like that it sounds like this movie, just like everything we've seen kind of up to it, is just one giant drama piece. Just, like,
I feel so bad for James Wan.
It's all over the place there. I knew nothing about. I actively went out of my way to not learn about the Depp Heard trial because I was like, nope, this is a circus. I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care at all.
Yeah, I voted it like the plague. It's not my business.
So I stayed out of it. So then, like, hearing anything with any sort of, I'm just like, I don't care.
Yeah.
I care because it is what we talk about. We talk about comic movies and all that kind of stuff.
Well, it affects this particular film. Yeah.
It does. There's this whole element of like, don't meet your heroes. There's this whole element of like, we really don't know people until like we know them. So is it possible that he was doing this? Sure. But like based off of everything I've kind of seen from him and like his persona, it seems a little out of pocket. Like there's been no reports of anything, but it could be. I don't know.
This is what I heard from people who have worked with him outside. Even Jen said she worked with him at one point, but I've heard stuff, and this is what I've heard. Yeah, he likes to come in. He has a beer. It never affects his work. Never. He has a beer every once in a while. He has a drink maybe after.
230 pounds. If a Guinness affects that man, something is wrong.
This guy's just a chill surfer. And as far as like him dressing like Johnny Depp, we've been seeing this guy in the news for the last 10 or 15 years. He's always dressed like.
He's dressed like flowy clothes and relaxed since like before he was even famous.
Yeah, I don't think, and as I said yesterday, I'll say again, Coy, this article will do nothing to Jason Momoa.
No, it's
Nothing.
silly.
Nothing.
But the issue I have is the idea that someone not related to the theater industry whatsoever, someone that's not at a studio, someone that has no actual grounds to cause a problem with someone's movie has enough money to write a letter. That's my issue with this story. My issue is not even like the Amber Heard of it. It's the idea that when someone makes enough money that they can buy social media and undermine democracy itself, that when someone can cause rifts in the geopolitical system that cause physical harm to our real world can also mess with my fiction. I'm bothered by the nonfiction and the fictional elements.
I hate to tell you, my man,
Musk.
it's the same thing though. Money.
You heard me.
Yeah.
So you're the B plot of Loki episode 2.
Yeah,
then is what
I'm
you're
affected
saying?
suddenly.
Yeah,
You see
because,
what I did there?
Because everything else you mentioned was like the A plot stuff. It was like
No,
geopolitical
also
and
Aquaman.
ruining democracy. And you missed
And he messed with December's Aquaman 2, the movie we've all waited for with bated breath.
Well, he didn't. I mean, he was by that argument. I mean, depends on how you feel of it. He didn't mess with it.
They
just
wanted
said,
to
"Don't
make a
fire her."
decision.
He said,
but they would have made a different decision with that. It sounds like they would have made a different decision if not for the letter.
True.
And if that's what the filmmakers want, they should be able to do what they want with their art.
Sure. I mean, look, this is the other thing is, regardless of how you feel about him in general, we know that the money has always run the world, right?
Yeah.
And he is, and I said it on the show yesterday. He is way more powerful than most people you're seeing that are going to be doing debates soon.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Because of the money that he has. So
He grew his hairline 4 inches. Like, the man has powers.
Does not surprise me that he's going to say, yeah, go ahead and do that, Warner Brothers.
Yeah.
See what happens.
And that's what sucks is like these studios shouldn't be affected by outside art shouldn't be affected by outside sources. I know it's not. I'm just acknowledging that that bothers me more than anything else amongst the craziness.
But that's also why we've gotten bad art.
Right.
That's why so many movies that had a lot of potential ended up crappy because you had people that had no business having a say
or even being in the movie. And people look, nepotism and all that kind of stuff, that's been going on forever, guys.
Of course.
So it's like, and it's all it comes from power and money, right?
Yeah.
So
The
that
Chapek
doesn't
era
surprise
of
me.
Marvel really messed it up, and they're trying to rewrite that ship. You look at what Zaslav, like, certain choices at the top causing problems. The article that just came out about Greta Gerwig fighting for that great scene in Barbie, like even a scene that she had belief in, they tried to cut because they didn't see the vision. I think that's a very important scene in the movie that just made $1 billion.
Yeah.
Like, you got to let your creators create.
That's true, but that happens all
every
the
movie.
time.
Oh, of course.
We just don't hear about it because it's
Sure.
not shiny. These are all shiny people. These are all people that people like talking about because it gets clicks.
Let me talk about this though as well too, because one of the things inside of that article that we didn't mention in the variety portion of it was that it's very possible that Universal will buy Warner Brothers. That was
Really?
that came out that Universal might buy Warner Brothers, and that to me
I would love that.
was like,
Why?
would you?
Because Warner Brothers doesn't have anything creative to say except for the bottom line. Zaslav running the ship into the ground is a guy that believes in reality TV over art, and Universal believes in art to the stake of making really weird stuff like Cocaine Bear, really weird stuff like Renfield. Universal swings for
Both
the
movies
fences.
no, the first one
Cocaine Bear did great.
Yeah, but
Renfield broke
ate it.
even.
No.
I thought
Renfield
on
ate it.
DVD it did really well. I thought it
Did
came
it?
out. I could be wrong, but
Okay.
I like that Universal swings to the fences and lets their artists make art.
Okay, well, let me ask you this though, because here's the one thing though with that. I understand your point you're making, but what you're not thinking about is that it is very possible that they go, well, let's not go with this saffron and gun plan. Let's do something else instead. Let's reboot this. Let's do this different. If they own it, it's not that plan anymore. They can go and they can change and they can say, well, we don't want you guys to do that plan that you came up with for the new thing. We want to do this now.
It's not just that, dude. Like, take it outside of just the small scope. I remember being so excited that Disney bought Fox because I was like, the X-Men are back. That's all I was thinking. But like, what people don't understand, we do not need another merger.
Yeah.
That is the last thing we need. We need to keep multiple studios and multiple production companies doing the thing, and not now all of a sudden get it down to what, 3, 4? That is the last thing we need.
True.
Is for that to happen. And that's immediately where my mind goes, is you are once again consolidating this power, and then all of a sudden only the stuff that makes the super billions are going to happen. The rest of it's gone to the wayside. You're actually going to end up undoing a lot of the art that you would want to see. I get what you're saying about letting people cook with certain things, but that definitely feels like.
I'll tell you why I don't mind it. Less emails.
Is there one PR person I call now? Is that a?
Well, yeah. I mean, look. Honestly, though, I mean, all your points that you made valid. I wouldn't
You
change
just
it.
want less emails.
I do.
This
I have
is-
one publicist that now sends stuff that we used to get. I have to chase down the Fox people for the thing. One person, and the person who sends the Fox movies now is awesome, and it's the same person who sends all the other stuff from like the Disney stuff. And it's the Fox person I used to chase all the time.
Bro.
It was the worst. It was like for press screenings.
But look at
movies I didn't want to see.
Devil's advocate, and your exact point is Banshees of Inisherin. Banshees of Inisherin,
Sure.
if it was under Fox still, wouldn't have gotten the same push that once Disney realized they had a potential Oscar contender, they put the weight of Disney behind it. I don't like Disney's choices a lot of the time. I think Fox was making better choices at points, but I think once you reroute the ship and have the right creatives behind it, Universal made Oppenheimer and let him play. I don't think Warner Brothers would have
didn't.
done that. They
Oh, no,
literally
they
said
lost
no.
him.
Yeah, they lost Nolan because of their dumping
then-
everything on streaming.
Well, right. They didn't lose. They let him be creative when they were
But they had him on a leash, and then once they ruined it, and
Yeah.
Universal was like, make your crazy think piece.
While I hear that, first of all, before I forget the thought, you are so in your middle-aged dad era
One less
right now.
email. It's like, worth it?
Hey, if I get one less email a week, I consider that a
100%.
win.
And guess what? I embrace it.
Bro, like Loki season 3 is just Christian being like, hey, yo.
Can we prune that email
I ain't got no
timeline?
emails.
Is that another? Can I prune that entire company? I need this pruned.
Yeah, one person.
I don't
doing all
love the idea
movies.
of jobs lost at Warner
That's it.
Brothers. I don't love the idea of the. I agree with you on the monopoly issue. I completely agree. My thing is, I don't feel like Warner Brothers in its current state. I would never 2 years ago have said
Sure.
this. I'm worried that Warner Brothers is intentionally losing money so that Zaslav can sell it off, because I think
That's what
Zaslav
they're
took
gonna
the
do.
job. Yeah, I think Zaslav took the job to cut out the bottom line and to make some money and then sell it for profit for scraps. But I think Universal, if anyone's going to buy the scraps, I like
But
Universal.
let's also not forget that Disney is also in talks to be bought by Apple.
I understand, and I don't think
Yeah.
that's good. The only thing that I will give a little bit of credit if Apple does that, They are not really a major studio at this point.
They got money.
They have money, but they're not really a major studio.
They will be within a heartbeat.
Which is fine. Yeah. But that's different. By taking one major, absorbing another major, again.
But they're essentially taking two because they have all the Fox stuff too. Because Fox is still an organization.
No. I understand that. So I get that Apple would then absorb all of those assets from Disney. But all I'm saying in that regard is there is a difference between Apple doing it when they're not really a player yet and they're trying to become one, kind of like what Amazon did with MGM. That's fine. Sure. You're not really in the game at this point, so you went and got a major that was, and the titles that came with it. If you then have Universal do this to Warner Brothers, you were just asking for just nonsense.
Look, I definitely think that if I'm James Gunn, I'm like, do not sell right now, please do not.
Also, you want to know the fastest way to potentially then lose Christopher Nolan, who you just got? You mean the thing that I already hated, you just absorbed in?
No, that's the opposite. That's the opposite. For that one, I was on board with you. Everything said that because the leadership is gone. The leadership he's with now is in charge.
Sure.
Yeah. So he's with the winning team, and he's like, all right, good luck.
But to that point, the actual solution is get real people in there that can actually right the ship and not somebody that's just looking at it as like a balance sheet.
I don't think anyone that's ever going to be profiting from reality TV will ever make narrative worthwhile. I think if someone that sees the bottom line of reality TV as low cost, high profit, they shouldn't be steering anything narrative. I've never thought I would condone anything that looked like a monopoly, but if it means Warner Brothers properties get some justice, because Warner Brothers made The Matrix, Warner Brothers was my Lethal Weapon. That was the studio that I relied on.
Joel Silver.
Joel Silver. Yeah. That era was, to me, one of the best eras in the history of film. Like, I love that 25-year run. Like, that company you've dealt with most directly, I think, was cinema, man. But, like, when is Warner Brothers... This guy's like, oh, we haven't made a Harry Potter in a while. Yeah, you just had one fail. Did you not check your own bottom line? Well, he's always talking about the Harry Potter IP. That just failed.
Wait, so here's the one thing, and I get... We'll veer back on course with the comic book stuff in a second. But, like, the off that point... Like I've been calling the man Zoloft for the last year, right? I think he's about as corporate and is about as textbook executive or studio guy as you get. However, the one thing I will say is he still hasn't had a full run yet. He's been in the middle of the
Nothing's come out.
He hasn't had anything yet of the stuff that the movies he's been working on, the plans he's put together. I'll push back on the Harry Potter stuff because the Harry Potter thing was not during his regime. It was a movie that came out that was not. It was as much as of a J.K. Rowling problem as anything else too. Where she's going, well, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to make these stories off of these characters nobody knows. They were mentioned once or twice in the Harry Potter thing. There's no novels. There's none of this. And it didn't respond to anything. Then you put the Hogwarts Legacy game out, and everybody loses their minds about it because it's Hogwarts. That's a good point. The music's coming out. Iconography. They haven't done that. Yeah. They haven't done that. So I understand that. He wants to also do Lord of the Rings because people also forget. Well, they've done Lord of the Rings. That Amazon show has nothing to do with the Lord of the Rings that they have from Warner Brothers. It's two different things. So they want to. And I do
like his Saffron Gun decision. I was very clear about that from the jump. The one thing we do know, I fully support because that's trusting to real nerds.
That's what I mean. So we don't know yet. Do I like him? No. Can I judge him yet on a full on what he's done yet? No. Because he shelved back.
When did he come in?
A year and a half ago.
So
nothing's out yet.
I mean, at this point. What as far as like the stuff
anything he would have
really put together
hasn't gotten released.
Everything that came out was all past regime stuff that they had to try to make money on.
And that I totally understand, and I also understand like rolling certain stuff out. Like I guess the big difference is there are still things and decisions that have immediate effects based on his watch, including how he handled the strike, including all sorts of stuff
that stuff's not great. I'm talking about the movies itself. No, the creative side of it.
I get that, but first of all, he is not the creative side of anything. We are very aware of that.
But as Coy said, there does come a point of he's not making the creative decisions, but it's the same thing that I always said about like Kathleen Kennedy, where Kathleen had very different positions, but where I think Kathleen Kennedy would thrive is because she's a very good producer. If she produced and got creative people said, okay, like to me, any producer that will say this, anyone in the position of power to say, okay, who are the creative people that are gonna, if I'm sitting up there, make me look the best, make me the most money. And I don't understand all this shit.
So-
Right? But then what he has done, as Coy said,
Those
he
two
went and
names.
got those two guys. That's a
For
big
the biggest IP they have.
Yeah, and they were gonna do at the time. They were also. It was who was it? It was Dan Lin. I think it was Dan Lin that they were.
Oh yeah, that's right. We were like,
And Dan Lin, I worked. Dan Lin was there when I was at Silver. So Dan Lin, I thought it would have been interesting. It was it was a guy who's been in the studio system, but it was such a outside the box thing to get Gunn and Safran to do it together. That's a move. That's what I mean by creative, right? Because that's a creative decision.
Sure. I understand that. I'm saying there is enough to be said about the decisions that he has made already
To piss people off.
That if again, people don't like me talking about sports analogies or whatever, but you could
Stop
fine.
saying
We'll
that
keep
because
it
we care.
right. We're already at like the end of the first quarter, and it's just kind of like, are you serious
you're gonna play?
right now?
A lot of
Like,
lot
what
of
do you-
games have been
there's
won
a
in the
lot
second,
of-
and third, and fourth.
And I understand that, but that doesn't mean that you aren't getting booze rained down on you right
and
now.
he should
And the
be.
boos are deserved.
and he should be getting booed. There's and that's what I'm saying. though,
again,
but
me
we just
saying
can't judge it yet.
Monopoly, maybe not the worst, is how bad the boos are for me. Like,
Okay.
I never thought Warner Brothers, I'd be in a position where, like, all right, go into the second quarter. Should we have a new coach, another giant coach, take over this team?
But that's what Winston. I think that's where Winston's point is valid. The thing is that this guy's not doing himself any favors outside when he's making comments and things that outside
Yeah.
the public perception of him outside of that bubble of the rich, right? That perception is like, even you're going to get people going, I don't care what he does. He might have some stuff too, but I don't like the guy. There's a lot of people who don't even know who the hell he is because we know who he is.
Have you ever had a situation where you met somebody, either someone you were trying to court
Yes.
or somebody you were trying to court or someone that you were just whatever, but they left such a bad taste in your mouth at the very front, and someone's like, no. Like,
Yeah,
they're
of
actually
course.
really cool, they do this, they do that, and you're like, I don't give a all right? I've met them.
Yeah.
This is how it came off. Good
First
for you.
impressions are everything.
It's everything, and he has fully squandered it, in my opinion.
That's fair. I think it's a fair thing, but I mean, there's also things that, as much as I know you guys too, and if they don't sell, and he winds up putting out all these movies with Safran,
I will
and
be
the
happy
DC
to be
plan
wrong.
goes great, we're not going to turn and go, you know what? I love the guy. I think he's great.
No.
That's never going to happen.
And
But
I've
we
said
will
from the
say-
beginning, the only thing that Gunn and Zaslav need to do is just be as true and authentic as they have been so far. Even amongst that
Right.
empire of sterileness, that is a creative powerhouse that can make all that money and make him look good. And I think if he gives them the leash that I think he has, Warner Bros. Is going to be in great shape. But it does worry me that we won't get to that point, and that's why I like what Universal has done the last 5 years more than most studios.
I'll tell you who they love right now because they don't necessarily have to sell right away. Not that it made a lot of money, but it didn't save the studio. Was Barbie, right?
Yeah.
And they love Margot Robbie and Greta Gerwig, as you mentioned. But you know, they got to have a few. And look, the Meg made a lot of money too. The movies and
Really?
yeah,
Yeah.
man.
The Meg 2.
Meg
Meg
2
2 made a ton of money.
internationally made a lot, and the Nun made
The
a lot
Nun
of
made
money.
I just saw those numbers.
Warner
That's
Brothers-
insane internationally.
Warner Brothers has a couple of wins.
The Conjuring is
It's
like the
just-
sleeper hit. It's
Yeah.
just like every time they make one, it just
But
profits.
what's taking that? What's burning all the fuel in the car? The DC.
Yeah.
It's Blue Beetle didn't
Hurt 'em.
do great. Flash was a disaster.
They got to be like
Shazam
breaking
2
even
is-
with Barbie's billion. How
I
crazy
know.
is it to make $1 billion and be
I
like,
know.
okay, we're just keeping this afloat?
Yeah, Shazam 2 is that's what, and so that goes into, I guess the next story here is that Aquaman 2 is now testing not great. Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. New details emerge about poor test screenings. Will they sink the box office hopes? Again, comic book movie. This one by Josh Wilding today has seen even more DCEU drama make waves online, as we're sure executives at Warner Brothers Discovery are eager for this franchise to just hurry up and end already. Luckily for them, it's going to end with December's Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. Newly anointed James Gunn and Safran are spearheading a reboot set in the DCU, though it's confusingly going to include a mix of new and returning characters, leaving even hardcore fans to wonder what sort of fresh start this actually is. Regardless, 2018's Aquaman 1 grossed over $1.1 billion at the worldwide box office. Production on the upcoming sequel hasn't exactly been smooth sailing. We've already heard about multiple rounds of reshoots and at least a few different cuts of the movie, including a version of the second Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom pieced together by a Warner Brothers exec, Pamela Abdi, who said it was a disaster. Now, Variety reveals that the movie is still testing in the 60s despite multiple attempts to overhaul it. One insider says the movie is like this echo of regimes. It's the last remnant of the Snyderverse, and no one really wants to take ownership of it. An on-set source attempts some damage control by saying the sequel was finished on time, under budget, and with only a week's worth of reshoots, but sounds like a fabrication based on this and other reports. Yeah, I don't buy that at all. In terms of the impact of all of this and what it will have on Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom's box office haul, the trade says the movie is currently on par with the first installment. That doesn't necessarily mean it will find the same level of success in the long run, but it may avoid the fate of Shazam, Fury of the Gods, The Flash, and The Blue Beetle. According to exhibitor relations box office analyst Jeff Bach, everybody is down on DC, but there is a chance, especially with the limited competition during the holiday season, that Aquaman could still play like gangbusters because of lack of product.
I'll tell you how it'll do $1 billion. Start telling people that them sea Navi from the second Avatar gonna be in it, and they somehow join up with Aquaman to fight Black Manta, and I bet you it'll do $3 billion. Right. Otherwise, I don't see this movie coming anywhere close to the success of the first one.
No, the success of the first one, no way. Right. The second part of the conversation is, does it make a profit? Right now, it depends, because I think that comment is total BS. We're like, oh yeah, it came in under budget, it's fine. Well, we already know there's like 4 things of reshoots.
Yeah,
all
we've
these different
different edits that have been screened. How could it have one round of reshoots?
There's no way. This movie, if you really look into it, they're going to guard these real numbers like the freaking government guarding the UAPs. So they're going to be guarding this thing, man.
Like, I'm guarding this camera. I swear to God, if I get a chance, I'm going to kill the hell out of this mosquito. It's been sitting there.
Well, listen. So what I'm saying is that if they're not going to, these numbers.
We'll never know the real numbers, especially because of the regime change.
But I'm going to guess, and I'm going to say, if you look at without the reshoots and without marketing, they're saying 220, 215 probably is how much they're saying it is. With the reshoots, this thing's definitely going towards 300.
Oh yeah,
definitely going towards 300. Which, with marketing, let's say it's got to make 550 to 600 to break even. Let's just say that. Or let's say 550 to break even. Which, again, now granted, there is not a lot of competition, and what people also don't realize, before Star Wars: The Force Awakens, there was never a movie that made $100 million opening weekend in history. It was the first one to do it in December. In December, it just didn't happen. Now it happens a little bit more. It's kind of like the second summer season when you have the big holiday stuff. People go out and see it. But I don't know. I just think we were in a very different time when that movie, Captain Marvel, all those movies were churning out those.
Peak hero and streaming was a different beast. It was not just not just the culture of movies, but it was also how people consume their media.
Right.
I think not only did we have the slow impact of how many superhero movies we've gotten, but also the slow impact of people got real comfy at home.
Yeah.
I don't think people like going out as much anymore. So I think when those two things combine, we're not going to see the same type of numbers. There are exceptions like Barbie. There are exceptions like Oppenheimer. There are things, but that was like a cultural moment. Like Barbenheimer was you look at this year's numbers, Guardians did very well for like 3, 4, 5 weeks. And then like nobody talked about it because nobody talks about movies that long anymore.
Right.
You had Creed 3 did some of the best opening numbers we had for sports films. We stopped talking about Creed 3 in like May. It came out in March.
Yeah.
The conversation doesn't last as
they
long.
come
Movies
out and they come out on digital and home like a month
45
later.
days.
Too quick.
Yeah.
It's the only ones that have remained relevant for an extended period of time. Barbie
and Oppenheimer.
I don't even think Oppenheimer. Like
Barbie legs.
Oppenheimer almost made $1 billion.
Yeah,
Can you believe that?
Did it?
Yeah,
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It didn't
981.
stay in but that you're talking specifically about people talking about it.
You mean like in
The
the
cultural
zeitgeist?
In the cultural
I got you.
zeitgeist, the only ones that did Barbie, Top Gun. I won't even say Avatar. Yes, Avatar made like 2.5, but like
Avatar, dude, definitely Avatar.
nobody was talking about it. Like
It was a weird thing to see the numbers and not the conversations.
It made so much money. I am not denying the success
You
it
just don't
had.
think it was a
It
kind of
was
big-
not talked
okay.
about the way that because the first Avatar was what 2008.
Nine.
9?
Okay. So we're not even really truly in the age of social media yet. And I feel like everybody talked about Avatar at all points in time.
Sure.
I feel like a decent number of people sort of talked about it leading up to it. The diehards obviously were. But then but once it was out,
Yeah, I see what you did. Not the way that they did Barbie. Barbie was everywhere.
I'd say
Barbie,
Across the
Spider-Man, Top
Spider-Verse-
Gun,
Across the Spider-Verse had a
Across the
big
Spider-Verse. I'll
impact.
give you that.
Do you think Across
And
the Spider-Verse was there people
More
talking about more
conversation than Barbie.
than Avatar?
I mean, sorry, not Barbie. More than Avatar, yeah.
I don't think so.
for sure. For
I would
sure.
say
As far
so.
as talked about,
Just dialogue.
because the other thing you got to think about, Christian, is what has also started to evolve. Like you obviously have what the layman, like the common everyday folk that just go to movies like whenever.
Yeah,
there's that. But then you have to look at like all of those movies I mentioned were massive on social media and TikTok. So for example, the number of memes that came out of Spider-Verse, that came out of Barbie, that came out of Top Gun, that's part of what helped with that longevity is that people were like the whole canon event
jokes about
became a
Avatar.
whole viral moment on social media for a minute.
But I see your point overall, though. Too, there are certain movies that are out there that are doing that, and I don't. This movie's certainly not going to do that. Like, as far as and the only reason where they said that it's got a shot to make profit, the only reason is because I do believe that Jason Momoa is a likable movie star, and I think that he was easily the best part of Fast X, easily, and that franchise.
What a good time he was having.
He was having a blast.
I really
And
like. I just
apparently-
wanted to see him on set. I want to see the behind the scenes more than I've like wanted to see BTS of any movie. I want to see him just like
because of
frolicking.
because of the drama. There was supposed drama that Vin Diesel did not like what he was doing.
I just haven't seen it yet, so I was just I know it's been
He's
a few
he's,
months.
he's
Spoil
great.
it. I won't spoil it. He's fantastic in it.
Okay.
He's essentially playing the Joker.
And
he's
it's
playing,
delightful.
He's
That's
playing
amazing.
surfer version of the Joker because he's so over the top, but he knows he's over.
Isn't
the
it
top.
also associated with 5?
Oh yeah, directed.
yeah.
Which is arguably like the best.
The best. They knew what they were doing, and
But
he's
this is-
he's
yeah.
playing the broker, and it's awesome.
It's different. It's a different show where we talk about that movie, but that movie.
Patrons get a watch along going.
Yeah, but that movie was like $350 million or whatever, 360 or something ridiculous, and it didn't even break even. I don't think. I think it barely broke even, or it didn't break even, and because of the same, I think they were all in that mentality of the 2016, 17 of we're gonna get this, we're gonna spend the money on it, we're gonna make it back.
Pre-streaming,
Yeah,
the
and I think
streaming shift
yeah.
that COVID caused. Like I know streaming's been around longer than COVID, but I think the 2 years that COVID really shifted entertainment from 2020 to 2022,
It went too fast.
we just don't have the same system anymore.
We were working towards that because there was fear that was coming that Disney might buy one of the theaters and start
right.
showing their stuff. So that fear was kind of hovering. But the minute you took a plan that was supposed to maybe go over the course of the next 3 to 5 years and it implemented instantly.
100%.
And that ruined a lot. That obviously ruined a lot of relationships with artists. But you didn't realize you broke your own business model, which should be to bring it full circle about this idea of selling to Universal. There's an idea of not really seeing the forest from the trees here. If you roll something out too quickly, like that streaming thing, you've killed your own model, and now people won't go back to the movies unless it is a major pop culture like phenomenon.
Right.
you know?
Or you spend less money and make a profit,
Which
on
is
it.
also
Right.
fine.
Like we were talking about, like with the Nun too. It's not like,
But to that point, it made its money, but nobody was talking about it
Sure.
until like a couple days after release. Nobody was talking about it. It may have done its thing, but
Yeah.
you've ruined that.
it's
now.
almost like and it's also because of going back to streaming. It's when they dump everything in night one, everyone will talk about Stranger Things for like
it's insane.
2
to
or
me.
3 weeks, and then the shows that are doing week to week, they stay in the conversation because it's coming out this week. Let's
Yeah.
talk about it this week. So
Water cooler conversation is so important for
is.
things to last.
it is. But all right, so we are going a little long, but I want to get to this Jason Momoa story about Lobo, man. That's a big one too. So Jason Momoa has reportedly entered talks to play Lobo. Gal Gadot is not expected to return as Wonder Woman until next week, when she's reported that she will be. It seems it's like that Saturday Night Live. Well, I mean, what's the deal with Gal Gadot? She isn't. Is she Wonder Woman? What's she doing? Give her another Netflix movie. It seems the rumors that Aquaman star Jason Momoa is set to return to the DCU as Lobo are true. But the recent report that Gal Gadot will remain on as Wonder Woman, it's been refuted. We continue to see conflicting reports and rumors relating to James Gunn and Peter Safran's plans for Warner Bros. DCU relaunch, with Gunn himself appearing to confirm that it's not going to be a full reboot, since the likes of Viola Davis and John Cena will return as their respective characters. Recently, Gal Gadot indicated that she might be set to reprise the role of Wonder Woman for a third movie under the DCU banner, but Variety now seems to have debunked this story once and for all. In the trades report on the Aquaman and Lost Kingdom drama, they note that none of the stars cast by Zack Snyder for 2016 Batman vs. Superman Dawn of Justice and 2017 Justice League, including Ben Affleck, Henry Cavill, Gal Gadot, Ezra Miller, Jason Momoa, none of them will reprise their roles in the new DCU universe in character. And none of this is particularly surprising, especially after the underperformance of The Flash. But what is interesting is that Variety also confirms that Momoa has officially entered talks to play Lobo. The Game of Thrones alum is expected to make his debut as the main man either in Superman Legacy or a standalone project at a later date. It's also mentioned that contrary to what we have led to believe, Gunn and Safran don't enjoy the same autonomy as Marvel's Kevin Feige when it comes to DC's small screen output, although a Max source says the collaboration between the DC team and Max executives Sarah Aubrey and Casey Bloys has been seamless. Gunn might well weigh in on social media to dispute or clarify some of this, but if accurate, it seems the new DCU will be a full reboot when it comes to the major characters, with a couple of ties to the previous era thrown into the mix. Whatever happens with the relaunch, it's worth noting that Variety also says that many sources are convinced that another company, most likely Universal, will buy Warner Brothers within 2 years, making recent DC subplots and upheavals feel quaint. If this does come to pass, we could be looking at another big shakeup before too long. So that was what I was talking about, right? So yeah. So there's a lot to this is one where we'll end with this, regardless of how long this is going to take us. But the first part is, this is exactly what I thought when all of the DC stuff was announced, which was, the door is open for all of them. The door's open for everybody is what they said. The door's open for everybody. Meaning, if the movies do good, if The Flash makes $1 billion, if people love the fact that Wonder Woman came back and Shazam makes big profit, then hell yeah, they'll all come back. Bomb after bomb. Why in the world would they bring any of these people back? It's the same thing, using Winston's sports analogy. You have a pitcher that used to be really good, comes in and his arm's blown out. He just can't cut it anymore. You cut him. And the other side of that is, now Henry Cavill's still throwing that fastball. He was still throwing that fastball, but the second you cut him, everyone else gots to go. Not just because it's Henry Cavill. If Wonder Woman was cut first, Gal Gadot was cut first, everybody's gots to go because it doesn't make sense. Now, I will say this. The point that I have been seeing in the comments, and I'm agreeing with more and more that I see it, is that if Viola Davis returning as Waller, I still think Sholo can return, and it doesn't change anything.
It doesn't change anything. That's completely.
There's nothing to connect to. Viola Davis can essentially serve the same purpose as J.K. Simmons did in the MCU. Yes. Because it's not this major. She's had major moments and certain things that have happened, but nothing to where you're like, well, wait a minute, doesn't that? It's like, no, she's playing the same character. Now, Peacemaker is another confusing one though. Peacemaker, let's call it what it is. He loved doing it. He wanted to see a season 2, so he's figuring out what he said. I don't remember the full thing, but it was something along the lines of season 1 is not going to be canon anymore, but season 2 will be, and we'll explain how. Is essentially what that article says.
My only guess is because you can do it anyway is maybe Peacemaker falls in some sort of wormhole, ends up in the DC universe, and we go.
He's got a lot of helmets. One of them could be multiversal.
You never know.
I mean, it's a simple bad line of dialogue. He just falls into the multiverse through a helmet. I mean, if any show can do it, that show's so ridiculous. Yeah. Also, I do think John Cena is one of the best casting decisions that DC made. So I don't mind the slight hypocrisy is too strong a word for what I feel it is. I do feel like it's a good enough casting decision that didn't directly tie into those. It's playing favorites. It is.
It's playing favorites.
So hypocrisy is strong. Playing favorites is what it is. But we didn't see those DCU members in the show. Yeah. They were shadow.
I'll be hypocritical because I don't mind that.
I don't mind. That's what I'm trying to say.
Both those choices, even though I said that you could recast them and fine, but it doesn't hurt it overall. It doesn't make it confusing if you keep all of them. But if you keep any of the major players, it makes it confusing.
It's also, and that was the main thing to harp on. Peacemaker and Waller are so small fish, just like Blue Beetle. Like they may grow to be bigger fish, but like the actual Justice League, everything surrounding the Snyderverse, everything surround like Margot Robbie because of what she did with Harley Quinn was so huge. All of that is so massive.
Yeah.
You have to walk away from it. Sure. But this is, yes, it is playing favorites, but it's small enough that like
Yeah.
Nobody's really
The
sure.
Margot thing is such a bummer because she is so well cast, but I agree she is the face of a different entity within the DCU.
She's also grown past it, dude.
Oh yeah, I mean she just made $1 billion. She should do whatever she wants next.
People forget she's a producer on that movie.
Yeah,
still, too.
she's set.
Yeah,
she could retire. Good for her.
Easily.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
But I do think that Margot loves Harley enough that she, if she wanted to, could continue and whatnot. But I do think the iconography of that era ties to her too directly. Whereas Peacemaker at this point, like there's a Peacemaker comic out right now, just wrapped 6-issue run called Peacemaker Tries Hard. It is the most I've laughed out loud at a comic in years because it's written exactly like the show.
What is it?
And it's a 6-issue series that feels like season 2 of the show.
Okay.
And immediately I'm like, man, he made me love Peacemaker. A
Well,
character
he's not
that
the
is
only one
just
coming back.
nothing.
Like, 'cause I think a few of them. I mean, I don't know if they're all coming back, but I know he said Freddie Strummer's coming back, which is he was my favorite. I love Cena. Freddie Strummer was my favorite.
Freddie Strummer was the
Vigilante.
Vigilante.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
that's what I thought.
Freddie Strummer was absolutely my favorite.
No, he was hysterical.
Yeah.
Because like then someone will make their okay, well, you know, Black Adam and the big. I was like, The Rock is tied to it. The Rock is arguably the biggest movie star in the world, or at least it was at some point. Like
I don't think The Rock helped himself too in the way that because The Rock was trying. The Rock was trying, and more power to him. The Rock was trying to take over DC. The Rock was trying to run DC.
Right.
And they just decided no. We're
Right.
going to go somewhere.
Right. But that's it and that's all. So you have a situation where nothing but really good came from it, like from Viola Davis's Waller, John Cena as Peacemaker, and what that show ultimately ended up doing. And then Sholo, especially from the standpoint of like, at least with Blue Beetle, I think both knowing, hey, that character would be important enough. We didn't really give Sholo a chance. It doesn't tie to anything really, other than a random rogue line about Batman, but Batman just exists in the world of DC regardless of if it's the DCEU or the DCU.
Yeah.
So like,
well, I think what they also need to do, because this Momoa thing could be confusing to people, because especially
it'd be a lot of makeup though. It'd be you would be able to potentially get away with it because
I don't know the character well enough. So
he's black and white.
So
like
look,
look, pull the photo back
this
up.
picture alone. I mean, is that how he looks?
100% of
That's
the
him.
time.
He's a full on alien, like full chalk white ghost. Like he would look.
It's
different.
also great because he can age and it won't be as affecting. Like I'm happy for. I felt so bad for Drax. Like you know he had to stay in that crazy shape into later, and now Hugh Jackman with the strike has to stay yoked for 6 months.
Right.
Like I was thinking of that when they had the Wolverine sleeves be long. I'm like, oh thank God he can like rest. But Lobo, like he's in a vest. You can do a little bit more prosthetics. He could
so
like
you can get away with it, but I think I want to see him going. Is he like wisecracking and stuff too?
Oh yeah,
he's
he's
an
insane.
ass.
He's Deadpool. He's DC's Deadpool.
He is.
He's alien Deadpool.
He's fought
he
Santa
doesn't.
Claus.
Oh, he's gonna have a blast.
He's fought Santa and killed him.
He doesn't die. He murders everybody. Like he's such a smart ass mouth. Like
Cigar chomping has a chain with a big what's the hook on the end? Oh, he's playing Lobo as
rides
Aquaman.
a space motorcycle.
Yeah.
But that's my point. So my point was what you just said. My point is that they almost like, so if this movie is, if Aquaman makes $1 billion, they run into that problem of what I said in the beginning of where they're going.
It won't, but I see what you're saying.
It won't, but that's part one. Part two is that it's also, here he is playing this role and he's playing the same thing. Essentially, he's playing,
He could go Fast X with it though.
his range, he's pretty much Jason Momoa in most of the things that he does, which is fine. He's made a career out of it. Minus, I still think Game of Thrones, he's very different. But the question that, or not even a question, I think you have to go back. If you do Aquaman in this DCU, you have to go back to traditional blonde hair.
Oh, Justin Hartley, like you got to go like he wasn't small, but you got to go clean cut.
You got to go back to basics because you got to go into the complete 180 of what this version is, especially if you're going to have him in as Lobo.
I fully agree with that.
Yeah.
I think it would serve the character more. Not that I didn't like this interpretation. I actually really enjoyed it, but I think it will, especially if you are going with what we've been teased at the story is with Legacy. You need Aquaman to make that about face as well.
More Boy Scouty, right?
Yeah.
Because you can't, because if you're going to have Momoa in it playing this kind of cigar chomping, and he's a good guy, ish, right,
Anti-hero.
He's Deadpool.
Yeah.
So, but if you're going to have that type of guy and it's going to be Momoa, you don't want a similar Aquaman.
No.
You want a
And
complete-
that's also very much only Momoa's take. There's not a lot of Aquaman. Even when he loses his arm and gets more vengeful, it's still not the level Momoa is playing. Like the comic book Aquaman and movie Aquaman are about as far as is acceptable.
Okay. See, I'm not really looking forward to this movie. I'll tell you why also, because the Aquaman 2.
Oh, okay. I was like,
Aquaman 2. Because I was up until I saw the most recent trailer. Because the trailer to me seems like they're just resting on the laurels of Momoa's personality. It's like let's get his personality alone. Let's see what we can get, and let's just market it on his personality because he's likable.
Yeah,
and that might get a lot of people in the theater. And I don't disagree. The movie looks so generic. Does it look fun?
is there a new trailer from the first?
I guess the last one.
Okay,
came out,
we
like
just had the one that I don't
like
think
3-4 weeks
okay,
ago, whatever it was. But it just looks so generic. And it could be a fun movie. It could be one of those popcorn in the face. I'm like, it was fine.
Yeah,
but I'm just trying to think in superhero movies. I'm already failing, but like, what movies have done well just off of somebody's personality?
Yeah,
I think the only
Deadpool?
exception I could think of,
First
because
one's written real well.
it was still written well, and like you were. Because like,
oh, you're saying just the personality
Just the
without the
personality,
script.
The only one I could think of, and it's not that it was a bad script, it was just basic, was like the Rush Hour series. It was
I thought
just
you were going to say Carrot Top's chairman of the board.
but like think about it. Batman and Robin, it would have been that this is a continuation, and it's George Clooney and it's Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Sure.
Like, like I'm trying to think of another superhero example. Birds of Prey. That like I enjoyed it, but as far as it goes, it's a pretty generic movie in that regard. It's Margot Robbie is doing Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn. You know what I mean? Like, it's those do not have a tendency to do well when you are just banking off of somebody's personality.
I'm so curious to see. This is now.
This might be the biggest drop from 1 to 2 ever. That's the record I'm curious about. Is it the biggest drop from first to sequel?
But their biggest competition, I think, is
Wonka, which I'm more excited for.
Their movie.
Their own, so no matter
they're
what.
competing against themselves.
So dumb. The Christmas season is Warner Brothers v. Warner Brothers.
So they could essentially be either hurting Wonka, or Wonka does so well that people are like, let's see Wonka again, or let's see, I heard it's really good. Let's see that instead of the superhero movie that nobody wants to see anymore.
It's the director of Paddington. I'm way more excited for Wonka,
me too.
dude.
I can't believe how many people are not excited for that movie.
It's the director of Paddington. It could have had no trailer.
I was talking to somebody. There was
one of those
who was
people?
it?
I don't really care.
I think
He's one of them.
Okay, but there's. Oh no, I know. I don't want to call this person out, but there's somebody who was walking into the studio, and I couldn't believe it when they said that. Oh, it looks terrible, and I'm like, what?
I don't think it looks terrible. I just don't care. Like Charlie and Chocolate Factory is fun.
Did you see Paddington?
No, I haven't seen.
That's why.
Well,
that's why.
Sure. But like,
we should do a watch along to Paddington.
Sure.
Dude,
I'm
Paddington
happy.
1 and 2.
I would watch
I'm
Paddington
happy to
80
do it. I just, I will say this much as far as the whole idea of Willy Wonka, the whole idea of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. I'm sure as a kid, just because of the antics, that was. As a kid, I was like, fine, but like anything I'm just like, I don't care about the story.
That's
whatever.
Fair. That's
like,
fair. But I mean, out of the two, if someone said to me, you can either see Aquaman 2 or Wonka,
not a
I
conversation.
would stay home.
You only choose one.
Okay, I would go in.
This is the 3 people doing a comic book movie show who are
and
debating
we're like,
this.
Wonka.
Right?
No, it's cool. I would go in to. I would go into Wonka, but I would bring out my phone and I would just put on headphones so I'm not bothering anybody, and I would just like watch Beyond the Spider-Verse. Or like Across the Spider-Verse. I don't care.
It's really bothering somebody. You have the screen up.
I'll sit in the front. Nobody sits up there.
I'm seeing Wonka. I mean, I'm seeing Wonka because I want to. I'm seeing Aquaman because I feel like I need to, and because of Yaya.
Kristian, you've never bought a ticket to a movie and then didn't actually do it. You just went and hooked up with a girl, and then like your mama would potentially get mad if she found out.
You're talking about something that's not inconsiderate and something that's
that's
considerate.
One affects everyone around you, and one,
I can't tell
glowing
you
bright.
that it takes everything in me to not take someo's phone out of their hand and throw it across the theater.
I hate it too. Like I said, I would make sure I'm in the most non-messing with anybody way to do that if I had to go sit in one of these. But I'm saying,
we all have to see Aquaman, right?
No, of course I'm going to.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's part of our
show.
fine. But if you're saying,
I'm going to send this clip to Warner Brothers when we say, hey, we want to come to the screening.
Yeah.
Wow.
Us fighting over you trapped into not watching something.
But here's the thing. What I'll say is like, look, here's the good news. We chose we'd rather see one of your movies instead of the other movie that we're covering.
Hey man, sex strong, baby, sex strong. I'm like, what?
But we're all choosing Wonka.
We chose Wonka together.
We're doing comic book movies, and we're all choosing Wonka.
Yeah, with one trailer, and it's really off the
I
director.
chose Wonka because chocolate is involved. All right,
Fair enough.
That's it.
But there should be no, if that movie at a second movie trying to capture this audience
Should not
everyone
be
like,
fighting.
yeah, it should be like, you should have been, nah, you still got it.
Yeah, didn't even consider it. And
you didn't.
one of my favorite actors working, Yahya Abdul-Mateen II, is in it, and I'm still like, sorry, I'm Paddington director. And like that's crazy because I wanted nothing more than the Black Manta movie with the trench, but I'm just so underwhelmed.
Fair enough. All right, this is a supersized episode. So we talked about a lot, man. We talked a lot of DC stuff. We talked Loki. We talked about it all. So let your comments be known, man. What do you agree with? What do you disagree with? All that and more. Like I said, when we hit 1,000 patrons, we're going to try to get Winston to go to Universal Halloween Horror Nights, man. So go and try to check that out. Again, if we get to that magic 10,000, Zaflirt and Flaus and Jessica will lead him to the plane while he skydives, which will be insane. And then 1,500, though, when we get to 1,500, we're going to a Corey Feldman concert. Amazing. I'd like to thank my two friends on the show today, starting with Winston A. Marshall. Winston, where can the good people find you?
You can find me at the Swaggy Blur, man. Got my sports victims unit that's been doing pretty well, and I'm having fun doing it. So please come and support that. And you can see me on Game Time with Rocha on Tuesdays at 11 a.m. Pacific time. And yeah, just the socials. Hit me up.
And Coy Jandreau, when you're not posting clips from this show and not tagging the actual show, where would they find you?
Find me outside Kristian's house, not letting him know I'm there, just like I don't let him know I'm tagging the show. I am writing Find the
You
Full
said
Video
find
at
it
the
on the
Big
big
Thing.
thing.
I didn't have room for the link. It was too...
Click on Twitter.
You'll find me tagging at the Big
wait a minute.
Thing.
No, you're not getting past
No,
that.
I literally didn't even consider tagging
like the guy doesn't live on social media. Oh, you can do that?
I didn't even consider the Twitter. I just went. I went.
Look
The
at
link.
him. Look how red he's getting. Has that this much
Bro,
color on him?
Hold
Look
on.
at him.
Coy.
Banshee of Harrison.
He is in his middle-aged dad era, and he just out social media at your ass. Come on, man.
I literally, my brain was.
Come on,
the
man.
link won't fit.
It's like he was
I'll
going
write
like
it
this.
out.
You can find it at the big thing. Someone goes, what's the big thing? Doesn't matter.
I literally went, the link doesn't fit. I have no other option. I remember constantly going
my
like,
God.
guess I'm out of luck.
Tag the account.
Type the big,
tag the account.
Find me failing at social media at Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and not knowing how to use them regardless of the amount of time I spent on them, and at New York Comic Con this weekend, where I'll be tagging at the Big Thing without relating it to anything I'm actually doing.
I am in full shock right now.
I cannot believe I
am
tweeted.
so disappointed. I'm not even mad. I'm disappointed.
I got middle-aged dad
Honestly.
time too. It's coming at me, and I deserve all of it.
It's embarrassing.
Yeah,
in my
that's real.
household, that would have been an ass whooping. Tag me.
Well, we give him a verbal.
I mean, I feel it. I turned like puce.
Yo, at 500 patrons, Kristian is gonna make Coy go get a switch off that tree he was throwing the ball.
We gotta go to the tree.
Wait a minute.
Wait
a minute.
The tree.
Wait a minute. For 500 patrons, will you get if we go by? Would you try to get that thing down until we got it all day?
100%.
All right. Here's what
500 patrons.
Let me find out. Let me find out if it's still in the tree.
Because if it is,
for people who don't know, I blew my arm out, got cuts and stuff all over my hands for like on Father's Day for hours trying to get this hula hoop out of a tree. It
was a
like
hula hoop?
Yeah, and it was straight up the Weeping Willow or whatever it is from
Whomping
Harry Potter.
Willow, we're going after it.
From Harry Potter, and it's got to still be there because this tree. I'll never forget it. That soccer player walking by and going, tree of death. And so maybe if
I can't fight the bodybuilder bro because we can't find him. But I'll fight the tree.
I'll see if you can try.
Let's tie it into the backstory
We'll
of Capes
figure it
and
out.
Cowls.
Anyway, so there's a lot of stuff as you see. Patreon is becoming a place of chaos. Go to patreon.com/thebigthingshow. If it was a Twitter account, you could tag it. All right, guys. Thanks for joining us on the show. We'll see you next time. Appreciate you. Goodbye.